Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Kelly Robert and Union Bank and Trust for the opportunity to speak with you today, and to Brittany Planos, of course, for sharing her time and expertise. Yes, I am Brittany's husband, for those who have noticed our last names. That's me on the left and Brittany on the right. So thank you, Brittany, of course, for being here. Today's event will only benefit you and our communities if we all leave here with something actionable. If the conversations that we start today continue tomorrow, and I think that they will. But I thank you again for your time, for making an effort to be here, and we'll do the best we can to provide you with the information necessary to combat the scam-related activity that we are monitoring at the local level moving forward. My name is Josh Planos. I'm the Vice President of Communications and Public Relations at the Better Business Bureau. And about once a week, I'm asked about how I got my job, and it's made abundantly clear to me that the person I'm speaking with believes that I have a gun and a badge, and I have to inform them that they're thinking of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, not the Better Business Bureau. Sometimes people think that I work for the government. Sometimes they think that I'm a special agent. Again, it's that darn word bureau that's throwing folks off. So essentially what I do is I disappoint people constantly in my role. But at the BBB, one of our most well-known functions is maintaining a database of millions of business profiles where consumers can research companies and read customer reviews. But unfortunately for a lot of folks, we are recognized by this, right? You're upset with a company and you want to vent about it. Others will recognize the BBB by community programming initiatives like shred events or cybersecurity seminars, or in the case of today, consumer protection efforts. Some recognize BBB by just this color, or by this logo, or by this logo or that logo, this color or that color. But my goal is not for you to leave here thinking about any of those things. It's for you to think, and think deeply, about one word: trust. Seems simple enough, right? We trust things all the time. I trust that the drivers around me will more or less abide by traffic signals. And I trust that the food I buy meets certain safety and quality standards. And I trust that the sunny forecast on my weather app will be precisely right every single time. That does not always happen, but still, I trust that it will. Trust to me is really one of the more essential, fascinating words we have, right? We all feel it from time to time. Occasionally, we can identify it. These folks look pretty trustworthy. But how many of us experience it when we go online, or when we get a text from someone we don't know, or when we turn on the TV? How often do we trust what we're being presented with? Once a day, a week, a month, ever? Ever is probably a bit extreme. But do you remember these photos that I showed you just now? Does anything look strange about them? These are not real people. They're not real photos. I mean, I've never seen a phone that looks like that. A lot that look kind of like that, but not exactly. No, these are images that were built using an artificial intelligence plugin where you can just simply type out a string of text and poof, you have a picture. The most circulated photo of the Pope last year was of him wearing a designer jacket. And this was also built using AI. And it was viewed millions and millions of times around the globe. Isn't that wild? It isn't real. So in my role, I ask myself every day, how can I trust what I am being presented with? And by extension, how can I trust that someone is there to actually help me? So what I would posit today is that trust is one of the most precious and limited commodities we have. We have both too much and too little. And increasingly, I hear from consumers and business owners who are running out of it. And I have a really hard time convincing them that trust can be found in the 2023 marketplace. I think we should quickly reset that depressing energy with a photo of puppies taking a bath. I don't think anything says palate cleanser quite like some adorable pets. So let's rinse, repeat, and start again. All right, back to reality. Do you know how many fake reviews Amazon spotted last year? 200 million. Ugh. We can't even research products and services these days without being fed inaccurate information. And understandably, that leads many consumers to pay for things that they otherwise wouldn't, to pay for things that do not exist. So let's chew on this number really quick. $8.8 billion. That is the amount of money that was lost to scams and to fraud in 2022, according to the FTC. More than any year in human history. That is up 30% from 2021. So we're going the wrong direction here. It's a pretty big number. It's also a mostly incomplete one. Because depending on where you look, experts will tell you that 85% of fraud in this country goes unreported. So $8.8 billion, conservatively. That's already more dollars than there are people on the planet. Everyone here knows someone impacted by fraud and by scams. Everyone. Maybe, probably. They just haven't told you. I know a few people, some of whom I love, and I think about them when I do my job. And I think it's tragic that this is an environment that we accept to some degree, an environment where many of us cannot trust one another. Looks like it's puppy time again. Or if that isn't your cup of tea, kitty time. All right, I want to tell you a quick story about my first job out of college, which was with a TV station. And back then, I thought that fraud was just something that more or less my grandparents experienced. I thought it wouldn't happen to me because, well, I grew up on a phone and a laptop, and shoot, I didn't have much money to begin with, so what could I lose? So I felt somehow like I knew better, so I was safe. So at this TV station, I wrote stories every week about scam victims who lost life-changing sums of money. I met some of these folks. I documented their stories. And one day, I got a phone call on my drive to work, and the caller ID said Internal Revenue Service, Washington, D.C. So I answered. And a man with a thick accent said, Mr. Planos. And I said, that's me. And he said, Josh Planos of Omaha, Nebraska, who works for KETV and graduated from UNL. And I said, wow, that's a lot of information, but yes. And he told me that his name was IRS Agent Williams. And then he read off a badge number and informed me that I had inaccurately filed my taxes the previous year. And then after checking out my bank account, I owed about $5,000 to correct the situation. So Agent Williams told me that they had been trying to get a hold of me for months. And so if I didn't agree in the moment, he would have no choice but to alert Omaha police, who would arrest me for tax evasion. So I had to make a decision right then. If I hung up, I'd be arrested. And I didn't have time to check what I had filed because, well, I was driving. And the moment just accelerated on me to the point that I was really no longer thinking clearly. Ultimately, I chose to hang up the phone, but it was really close. I had thought about providing my credit card and bank account information. I had thought about how I'd have to explain to my parents that I had been arrested for something so preventable. I had thought about a lot of different choices in that moment. So let's recap. This man was able to spoof the caller ID, identify my name, my age, my location, my employer, my alma mater. He called himself an IRS agent. He read off a badge number. He said he could access my bank account. It felt very, very real in the moment. And as someone who worked for the news, who should have had every reason to know immediately that this was a scam, I still came about as close as you can to providing my identity to this complete stranger. So I did not know better. I was not safe from scams. And for every one effort that is laughable and obviously a scam, there is one that is capable of changing someone's life. And they won't call you when you expect them. They won't give you the time to make the best decision for you and your loved ones. They will not discriminate based on age, sex, gender, or socioeconomic standing. So with all that being said, let's set the table for our scam prevention discussion. And Brittany will be able to touch on a little bit later some of the more specific types of scams that we are seeing, and specifically the ones that are pertaining to bank-related fraud and scam-related activities. This is your money. This is your personal information. And this is what scammers are after. Nothing more, nothing less. Right? They don't want to be your friend or to discuss your car's extended warranty. They want your money. They want your personal information. And then they want to walk away without any consequences. Why are they so successful at doing this? Well, we don't call them con artists for nothing, right? Over thousands of repetitions, thousands of scenarios, technology, research, they present us with a reality that does not exist. And all of us certainly have our biases and predispositions, but I would also argue that some of this damage is the result of a basic instinct. I believe that we all possess this instinct to a degree. And trust can unfortunately obscure our understanding of trickery, of the hoax. Intense emotions compromise our ability to think rationally, so it's no surprise that these operations are not subtle. They never are. Do you remember that IRS agent story from earlier? Well, one thing he repeated to me was that he wasn't trying to scare me. He was trying to take care of my problems. He could handle the situation for me. He was the equivalent of the bank representative calling to alert me that suspicious activity had popped up on my account and that he and he alone could protect me. More broadly, nowadays, the more sophisticated scammers pretend to be the ones helping. They pretend to be the ones who have your safety in mind, the ones you can trust. 50 years ago, you had to be in the same room with them to get hustled. And nowadays, you can be half a world away, right? Because most scams look like this. And like this. And like this. This is an IRS scam operation based out of a call center in India, one that targeted people just like me. And this place was raided in 2015, shortly after I received that phone call. Unfortunately, nobody got arrested because employees were tipped off that a raid was going to happen, and so they didn't show up to work that day. That is pretty common, and unfortunately speaks to how difficult it is to arrest someone if the country of origin doesn't feel like policing it, if it involves multiple jurisdictions. But some of these scammers could be your neighbor. Like this woman, she was arrested in November in Grand Island, Nebraska. And these guys were arrested in Omaha. And all of the people responsible for these headlines had one thing in common. They claimed the great state of Nebraska. This is just a list of scam-related stories that I found online that were reported in the past 12 months. And do you remember what we said earlier about fraud in this country? How the majority never gets reported? Anyone here like cute livestock? All right, fine, we'll go back to the cute dogs and cats. If the ultimate goal for every scam is to access someone's identity and wallet, it would follow that bank-related scams would be common. And at the BBB, unfortunately, we've seen a considerable uptick in these reports since the pandemic. It has certainly been a tumultuous year for banks, particularly independent and regional ones. There's been a lot of news coverage about failures, about security defenses failing to protect consumer data, about a global banking crisis. And guess who that benefits? This guy. You have concerns about your finances? Great. You're confused about your current and future financial outlook? Even better. That uptick was inevitable because of the transitions that we've all experienced. Like, do you remember when you actually had to walk into the bank to deposit a check or to open an account? No longer. You can move your entire life savings to a different bank in less than 5 minutes. Don't have an account? No problem. It has never been easier in all of human history to enroll in a new bank account from the comfort of your own home. A lot of folks are doing it too. Insider intelligence estimated that 13.1 million new bank accounts were opened in the US in 2022 by digital channels. Why might that be? Look how comfortable it is, right? It's easy, it's convenient. And more than 3 out of every 4 Americans would rather not enter a physical location to move their money. So when the pandemic hit, millions of holdouts got a crash course on just how critical mobile banking is to the modern economy. Nowadays, mobile banking far exceeds branch banking. There are some unfortunate consequences of that convenience, like this. And this. From phishing to malware, social engineering to data breaches, the attack surface for scammers has expanded. There are more vulnerabilities, there is global reach, there are cyber criminal tools today that we simply do not have safeguards for. Some bank transfers or transactions involving payment cards take at least a day to clear. But that's no longer an issue either, because payment apps take seconds. There are dozens of peer-to-peer payment methods that are not only connected, but in some cases embedded within our very own banking apps. They make money transfers free, fast, and convenient. And these modes of payment are ubiquitous on college campuses and also in scam circles, because in many cases, those transactions are irrevocable. You physically initiated the transaction. You authorized the purchase, so the liability is yours. No matter if you were scammed or if you inadvertently input the wrong phone number or you simply made a mistake. Now, some of these platforms are attempting to add protections for users, but not nearly enough and not nearly quick enough. So let's dive into what we're seeing at the BBB level, which covers reports across North America, to give you a sense for what to protect yourself from. And then Brittany will absolutely cover the more specific scams that they are monitoring and the ways in which you can go about reporting those experiences. We could not do our job without our scam tracker tool. This can be accessed at bbb.org/scam tracker. It is completely free. It is a fantastic way to see what scams have been reported in your area and what to be on the lookout for. You can even drill down by zip code if you want to know very specifically within your pocket of the world what to be on the lookout for. If you go to this website, you can also report your scam experience and be kept completely anonymous if you so choose. It is a very simple process. A television crew does not show up at your front door, but this is a very, very helpful way to protect the public from what it is that you've experienced. So the findings that we are discussing today are found in our 2022 Scam Tracker Risk Report, which is essentially our annual snapshot of the activity that is reported to us. This is based off many tens of thousands of scam-related reports. The median dollar loss reported in the more than 40,000 scams we monitored last year was $171. Now, that means different things to different people, but absolutely no one has budgeted for a loss of $171 when they try to buy something online, or when they make a phone call, or when they think they're moving their money from one bank account to another. Here are the 6 most reported means of contact for those who experienced a monetary loss. The only thing that changes when you filter by age demographic for those, say, over the age of 65, is that social media goes way down and text message goes way up. There are a lot of misconceptions about scams and fraud, and today I want to unpack 2 of them. The first, what age group is most likely to lose the most money to a scam on average? It is the younger generation, defined as those between the ages of 18 and 24. On average, these folks lost $220 to scams in 2022. Those over the age of 65, for comparison, lost $190. But what is most disturbing is that the younger generation is also the least likely to report a scam. See, it isn't lost on me that today is about presenting to a very specific demographic. But part of today is also about sharing the information you learn so that we can protect one another. And teenagers and new adults are not immune to scams and to fraud. They are right in the crosshairs. And generally speaking, we have a very difficult time getting these folks to reach out when they experience something. So please, if you have someone in your life who is in this demographic, share this information with them so that they can know what to protect themselves from. All right, let's talk about another misconception. Which age group do you think is the least susceptible to losing money in a scam? So this is the percentage of consumers who reported losing money when exposed to a scam. This is the older generation, defined as those above the age of 65. Here's how that exposure and susceptibility look by age. See, this is actually an encouraging sign for seniors. These numbers have improved substantially over the years, particularly over the last 3. And seniors are far less susceptible than they were at this time, even just 2 years ago. So from my perspective, the public education, which is our very best protection in this arena, is working. If we drill down on some of the bank-related scam trends we have monitored, here are the 2 most frequent reports. How many of you have received a text message like this? Some suspicious activity has been found on your account. I have. And it's natural to want to immediately put the situation to bed, right? To get to the bottom of it. Most credit cards and bank accounts these days come with basic fraud protection and transaction flagging services. But this is not a real support message. This is a scam. Its goal is to establish simply that the phone number is active. And it doesn't end with the message. From there, a scammer will call you to follow up, and the number in the caller ID will appear to be from your bank. And when you answer that call, because you most certainly will, if you have gone this far through the process. You'll be told by a bank representative that you need to send money to yourself using a digital payment system so that the charge will stop. And you'll be asked to verify the code that connects your bank to that payment method. And now the scammer has access to both. Moreover, you will stop thinking clearly about why this is happening and start following orders. This is like a trance. And that trance is absolutely what scammers work tirelessly to perfect. In another version, you receive a text or an email from someone pretending to be from your bank, and you're asked if you signed up for a new account with a competing bank. If not, please call this number. And you'll be asked to repeat back bank information, like your account number, your PIN, your social security number, to verify your identity. In some cases, they already know your account number, which makes them even more likely to be trusted. Again, many of these scams are designed under the guise of help. These are designed to mirror what type of communication folks actually receive from banks, and thus are more likely to trick you. And here's where we're most concerned. Remember those fake images from earlier? The ones built using artificial intelligence? Well, the other day, I asked ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence model that can mimic human language, to create a scam for me. Thankfully, it said it wouldn't. But then I asked it about what scam tactics were the most effective in 2023, about the ones that really pulled at the heartstrings and got consumers to act. And it told me that bank-related scams and tactics were incredibly effective. And then it completely laid out how to facilitate one. I asked if there were any concerns about that answer in the context of what my initial question was, which was, can you build me a scam? And it said, while discussing scam tactics, it is important to strike a balance between informing people about the risks and avoiding the promotion or endorsement of unethical or harmful activities. Well, my worry is that that balance has not been found. And I worry that the next person who gets a call from someone claiming to be an IRS agent will stand even less of a chance than I did. And that this tool, which I believe has refined the scams monitored at our local level, will be used more like a weapon rather than like a resource. One of the tried and true methods of detecting scams for decades has been to comb through unsolicited communication for grammatical errors and simple mistakes. Well, what happens when those errors are smoothed out until the text mirrors the exact language you would find in authentic communication from an organization, with a government, with a bank? It becomes a lot more challenging. Striking that balance. Again, I don't think we've found that yet. So I said earlier that today's workshop would not be terribly productive without anything actionable. So let's talk about education, which again is the single most important variable we can move the needle on. I believe that this information will help you, those you love and those you care for, to avoid the majority of what is reported to us. Step 1, add a healthy amount of skepticism to your diet, particularly when you receive unsolicited communication. Nearly every scam that we monitor these days began with an out-of-the-blue phone call, a text, or an email. Nearly every one. One way that you can avoid that unsolicited communication is by never picking up the phone for a number that you do not know. I know it sounds a little antisocial, but hear me out. If it is an important situation, what is the caller going to do? They're going to leave a message. Unfortunately, we have no way of knowing if the caller ID is accurate these days. Now, it is unlikely that a scammer will call you and your caller ID will identify someone you know using their full name. But it is not unlikely that a scammer will influence the city, state, and area code to get you to pick up. And unfortunately, these days, you stand to lose too much to answer a call willingly. So don't. I have written down the National Do Not Call Registry line and website. This is a good place to start to ensure that your line is protected. Next tip, never send money to someone you haven't met face-to-face. If it involves a bank, ask to meet them in person at the nearest branch. If it involves a utility service, ask them to come to you. Those are completely fair and appropriate terms and conditions. It is not too much to ask, and unfortunately, you just have no way of knowing if the person you're communicating with over the phone is the person you think is on the other end of the line. Next tip, avoid clicking on links or opening attachments. Do you ever get one of those text messages that tell you that a shipment from Amazon will be delivered in an hour, or that you can track something from USPS from your phone? Did you know you legally have to opt in to receive those kinds of messages from either marketing or support? Like me, I buy things from Amazon pretty regularly, and I have never opted in to SMS messaging. So I know it's fake every single time. All phishing messages follow a pattern. You're urged to click a link, to share information, to call a phone number, or to download an attachment. And most often, you are taken to an unsecured site with a form fill for your personal and payment information that we talked about earlier. Scammers can now hide malware in attachments, which effectively infiltrate your devices and steal your information. So my advice, if something sounds suspicious, call that company directly from its official number on its official website to confirm. It's a lot easier than playing cleanup duty after the fact. Next tip, avoid sharing personally identifiable information. If somebody asks you for banking and credit card information, your birthday, your social security number, ask yourself why they need that. There are very few situations in which they would. Think of this like your digital fingerprint. You would want to protect that, right? And it's not just giving up that information willingly. We hear from folks who have uploaded photos of their living room on social media with tax return or bank account information sitting right there on the counter. We've heard from folks who chose not to shred sensitive information, and it was removed from their trash and used to open credit card accounts. We've heard from folks who provided their social security number to sign up for what they thought was a free subscription. This is information to keep safe at all costs. For those of us who pay for products and services online, double check that URL before providing any payment information. If it begins with HTTP and not HTTPS, the site is not secure. Secure sites begin with that URL HTTPS, and they have a lock symbol next to it. You can see it there. It is just a one-letter difference, but it is a significant one. The websites for UBT, BBB, and millions of others all start with HTTPS. HTTPS sites use encryption to protect information as it's being sent between client and server. So when an organization enables this, any information that you transmit, like passwords or credit card numbers, will be very difficult for anyone to intercept. So you want to have it. And if the site isn't HTTPS, you should not provide your payment information. Next tip, embrace the slowdown. Scammers thrive when the situation accelerates, when there's that urge to act immediately. They want to push you to make a decision before thinking things through. And sometimes they'll advise you not to contact anyone and to just trust them. Other times they will dangle a lucrative offer, but only if you act now, right? How many times have you heard that one? High pressure sales tactics are a hallmark of a scam, so embrace the slowdown. Shady actors will typically try to make you think something is scarce or a limited time offer. It isn't. They want to push victims to make a decision right then and there before thinking things through, before asking family members, friends, or financial advisors. Sometimes they will advise against contacting anyone and just trusting them. But it typically isn't a good idea to make an important decision quickly, right? So embrace the slowdown. And yes, that unfortunately means putting guardrails in place that will protect you, even if they cost you your time. Multi-factor authentication is best practice. So this is where you're required to input your password, and then a code will be sent to another device to authenticate it. I know it's frustrating. I know it can be annoying, but this protects you, even if your password is compromised. So enable these settings if possible. Yes, it will add time to your day, but I promise it will take a lot less time than it will be to clean up an identity theft situation. I did want to mention that we have an entire landing page on bbb.org dedicated to protecting seniors. We have specific information on how to spot the scams that are targeting older adults, information on how to report, on how to give to charities with confidence, on warning signs and tips for caregivers, on how to choose the right assisted living facility. I strongly encourage you to check that out. All right, we're almost through with my section, so hang in there. The BBB has been around for more than a century, since 1912, and we have never monitored more fraud and scam-related activity than we have in the past 3 years. There are billions of reasons for that. But there is a primary obstacle that continues to get in our way. It's us. We stay silent when we see things or when we hear about things. We think there's some sort of threshold that needs to be met for our stories to matter, for the TV stations in our region to care, for police to investigate. Look, it takes a lot of courage to speak up. But perhaps we would be more likely to do so if we acknowledge that staying silent only ever helps the perpetrator. If we acknowledge that it does the exact opposite of protecting the community. I want to put all of us back in my car in 2015 when I received that phone call. It's going to be a tight squeeze, but we're all in there now. What did I do? I answered a call for a number I did not know. I nearly provided personally identifiable and bank account information to a stranger. I allowed the moment to accelerate on me. I didn't follow any of the advice we discussed today, and that call changed my life, even though I did not lose a single dollar. But what is most frustrating is that I didn't report it. And I will always, always regret that. This is what trust is about. It takes all of us. The digital age has revolutionized so many areas of our lives. It moves so quickly. Sometimes it feels like we can never keep up. But if our principles are sound, and if we can agree at the very least to call out things when we see them, to say that we do not accept that billions of dollars are lost to fraud every year, I think we can actually make a difference. I think about this proverb a lot. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I want us to go far. And I think you do too. You know who else wants a safer world? These guys. So with that in mind, please share what you have learned today with your loved ones, with your friends, with someone who can benefit from knowing the signs to look for. I consider us all now fraud fighters, and I will be counting on each and every one of you to make our communities a little bit safer. All right, I'm going to hand things off now to Brittany, who is going to take us the rest of the way and has some more specific information to look for as you navigate this process. Take it away, Britt.
Josh, thank you so much for that helpful information. As you shared, it really does take a village. It takes all of us working together to continue that educational outreach. As you said, education is really our first line of defense when it comes to fraud and scams. Thanks so much for being here today. My name is Brittany Planos. I am the Financial Literacy Program Manager for Union Bank and Trust. So I don't work at any of the branches, but you'll find me throughout the week floating around the community of Lincoln, talking to different school organizations, community groups, about all things related to understanding how to protect ourselves from fraud and scams, in addition to things like budgeting, understanding rebuilding credit, all kinds of things. And so I'm thankful to be a part of, here we are today with Smarter in September, talking about fraud and scams. So let's see here. What we're going to cover is what we've been seeing here at UBT of common scams. These include romance and online dating scams, social media scams, phishing and social security scams, and also a few more steps to protect your personal information, your bank accounts, and then what to do if you think that you've been a victim of a scam. So Josh had some great tips on, how do we spot a scam? Scammers pretend to be from organizations that and unfortunately, they often pretend to be from UBT as well, financial institutions. Scammers often will lure people in by saying that there's a prize, or on the flip side, that there's a problem, right? As Josh shared, with the IRS, you have to take action now. There's a problem with your account. You have to take action now. So there's a sense of urgency. Also, again, on the other flip side of that is you've won something. So if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Scammers will tell you to pay in a specific way. Oftentimes they'll say you need to send a gift card, or you need to wire money, or you need to Venmo me money, or use Cash App, Zelle, these peer-to-peer payment applications. So a telltale sign is that there's a sense of urgency, and usually there's a very specific way to pay them. So romance and online dating scams, we see these on the rise, especially with our over 50 population. A lot of folks are dating online, and we've seen a lot of people get scammed this way. And so with online dating scams, oftentimes people will pose to be somebody else behind a fake profile. As Josh shared, it's never been easier than now to create fake profiles, to have photos that are altered, that make it look as though they're presenting as somebody that they're not. And it's really scary. You never know who's on the other side of things. So often how this will work is that folks will enter into a relationship with somebody that they've just met online. They'll profess love very quickly. They are often overseas or claim to be overseas, or that they're in the military. They'll ask for money. They usually have some sort of emergency after a few days or maybe a few weeks of connecting online. They might share that they have medical bills, or that they need support for their family or their children. And then they'll continue to brush off visiting. They'll often say that, I can't visit. Something came up, or there's an emergency. So they keep kind of kicking that can down the road, where they never give you that opportunity to meet them in person. So scammers, again, they hide behind fake profiles on dating sites. And often they'll send flattering messages, they'll make connections, they'll claim to be a doctor, a military service member. They try to gain your trust. So again, there's that common thread of trust. So the romance scammer, stop communicating immediately. So what I would say with this is that oftentimes when we're in love, it clouds our judgment, right? And so talking to somebody that you trust, or paying attention to what friends and family members are saying about who you've met online, they can sometimes have a good judge of character, or a sense if this might be a scam. Report to the FTC. Notify the website or application that you connected on. You need to report these fake profiles. Contact UBT if they've given any personal information or been update your accounts, freeze your personal information. Social media scams are also still common. Oftentimes, social media scams will look like it's a friend or somebody that you know, a family member might reach out to you through a message. They might say that they need some money from you or that they're in a dire situation, and they'll appear to be somebody that you know. And so, if this isn't typical of your friends or family members, it's important then to reach out to those friends and family members, ask them, hey, did you message me this? What's going on? Oftentimes they don't realize that they've been hacked on their end. And so if it seems a little bit odd or fishy, trust your gut. Um, Never send money, of course, to anybody that you don't recognize. If you do recognize them, call them, contact them directly to make sure that's really them. Again, in many cases, profiles can get hacked very easily. If you suspect a social media scam, stop communicating immediately. Update the social media platform, alert the person which the scammer is posing as. They might not even know that their account has been hacked. If you paid the scammer with gift cards, make sure that you alert the issuing company. If you've given personal information you think to a scammer or bank account information, contact UBT immediately. Freeze your personal information with the credit bureaus. And if you've identified a deposit into your account that was not processed by you, also contact UBT. So while this is not unique to social media scams, we do see this where scammers will attempt to maybe deposit a small amount saying that they're going to send you money, and then in turn they want you to send money back. And so we might see these little micro deposits or these unauthorized funds. Those are things that you want to look out for. Phishing, as Josh shared, is pretty common. This is through email, text messages, phone calls, robocallers. I think that we've all experienced this in some form. A scammer will attempt to trick you into releasing personal information by, again, posing that there's a problem or that there's some sort of prize or something good is about to happen if you just take these further steps. So with phishing scams, common signs of this would be organizations saying that they've noticed suspicious activity or login attempts. UBT will never reach out to you to say we have suspicious activity with your bank account. We will never text you that. We are never going to email you that. We are going to call you if we think that there's issues. Will often claim that there's a problem with your account or payment information. You must confirm some personal information. We want you to click on a link to make a payment, or oftentimes scammers will say that there's a coupon for free merchandise or extended warranties or services. When you click on a payment, oftentimes it'll lead you, as Josh said, to malware. These are suspicious links that can add viruses to your phone. Here's an example of one I just received here not too long ago from Samsung. So Samsung TV, it's not accepted, click here. So phishing emails and text messages might look like they're from a friend or from a family member or a company that you know and trust. So they play off these companies like Samsung, for example, or even here locally, they'll post that they're from a local bank or an organization that we know. And so it's just really important, not to be clicking on things in a text message. If somebody doesn't send you something unprompted, it's probably a scam. With Social Security scams, unfortunately, these are on the rise as well. The Social Security Administration they'll never call you unprompted. So they will almost always send a letter. They don't call you unprompted. Robocalls or live calls, they're fraudsters pretending to be government employees. So they'll often say that there's claims of identity thefts or problems with your benefits. They'll make threats of arrest, legal action. Oftentimes, like Josh said, they'll pose as officers. They'll read a phony badge number to make it seem like it's an official communication. The Social Security offices, they'll never threaten arrest or other legal action. There is a process for things that they have. If for example, if there is something amiss, they're always going to send a letter to your house. It's going to be kind of an inconspicuous letter as well. So they don't call you. They don't require payments ever from like retail cards, gift cards, cash, wire transfers, that type of thing. If you suspect that you've been a victim of a Social Security scam, stop communicating with a person immediately. Hang up, do not respond. Report it to the Social Security phone scam at oig.ssa.gov. If you've already paid a scammer with gift cards, contact the issuing company as soon as possible. And again, if you release any financial information or personal information, call UBT ASAP. So some things that you can do to protect yourself for your personal information. Only carry necessary ID with you. I think this is really important with your credit cards in your wallet. If you're running to the grocery store, don't take everything that you need. Just take what you need for that shopping trip. Don't carry your social security card with you. I don't know how many times where folks have been the victims of identity theft because they had their social security card in their wallet and they had their purse stolen or left out and somebody took it. Limit the number of credit cards, debit cards, and ATM cards you have in your wallet or purse, and then report lost or stolen cards immediately. Oftentimes, we might think, oh, I'm sure it's around here someplace. It just takes a quick second for somebody to find a card and then begin to use it. So, immediately, if you think that you've lost your card, please let UBT know. We're happy to cancel that, put that freeze on that. So that way, if somebody does get a hold of your card, they're not using it. Again, it only takes a split second for somebody to pick that up. Report it as soon as you know that it's missing. If you find it later, no harm, no foul, but we want to make sure that we're keeping you safe. And don't fall for fake. So slow down, talk to somebody you trust. As Josh said, there's this sense of urgency with scams where somebody will call you and things will escalate really quickly. And so, don't let the person on the other line rush you. That's a telltale sign of a scam. Never transfer money, buying gift cards or wiring money to people that you do not know. That's not a common practice, right? If you send gift cards, like this is a common thing, and gift cards are not an accepted form of payment for most things. That's a big sign of a scam. Contact UBT as soon as possible if you think that you've sent money to a scammer. Report your experience to the credit bureaus. And again, reporting your experiences to bbb.org/scam tracker is also a great strategy. UBT is never going to ask for your password or your PIN number. Never, ever. We will never call you and ask for that. We will never send you a text message. We are never going to send you an email with these things. Never in a text will we ask for your name, address, account number, or social security number. Occasionally on the phone, we might need to verify some personal information. If you call in, we just want to make sure that you're you, but we're never going to ask for these things, and especially unprompted. With mail, you'll want to move your mail from your mailbox daily. Deliver outgoing mail when possible to the collection box or deliver it directly to the mail carrier. Having mail, especially with the red flag up, that's also a sign for scammers that are just kind of driving through neighborhoods to know that you have outgoing mail. That's a really quick way to reach into your mailbox and look for checks and other outgoing information. Shred pre-approved credit card offers, which can link your name to account numbers. When possible, pay bills electronically. And also UBT, we provide a free community shred day event each April. And so please come out, save your documents throughout the year. If you'd like, it's a free event. We can shred all of those personal documents for you, junk mail. With email, delete suspicious emails without opening them. If you get a funky email that's not from somebody you know, it's okay to send that straight to the trash. If you do open one, don't open on any attachments or links. And if you click on a link, you'll want to make sure that that you have software updated, that you're regularly checking for virus protection, that your operating system is updated. If you receive a fraudulent email and it says it's from Union Bank and Trust, or you think it might be fraudulent, it's better to inform us. Let us know. Call us here at 402-323-1777. Let us know what happened to you, and we'll take a look for you. Monitoring your credit report is also important. I think sometimes folks think that this is only important if they are looking to borrow in the future, like say, for example, for a house or for a car. But it's important to monitor your credit also for signs of identity theft. Federal law allows consumers to take a look at their credit report for free every 12 months for free. And so it's at annualcreditreport.com. You can pull from all three bureaus, so Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. And so it allows you to check for your name, your address, personal identifiable information, as well as any accounts that are in your name. So it's a good idea just to check this, even if you aren't applying for credit, just to make sure that everything looks clean on there and everything is, any accounts that are under your name, credit cards, revolving, or installment loans are yours. Unfortunately, 1 in 5 people has an error on their credit report. And if that's the case for you, you can submit a dispute through annual credit report to get that removed. Explain what you think is wrong, why, if you have any supporting documentation that supports your dispute, that's helpful to know. So for example, if it shows that you've been living in Florida and you've never lived in Florida, well, you have information right there that you're a Nebraska resident. They can remove that from your credit report. Checking your bank statements is also important. Monitor bills and bank statements frequently. Oftentimes we'll see those micro deposits or withdrawals from accounts where scammers will try to test to see if you're going to notice that they've scammed your credit card or your ATM card or your debit card. And so I often see this, unfortunately, with gas, where it might show that you had $1 that came out, and then it will be multiple dollars that'll start to come out, where they'll put skimmers at gas stations. So that's an example of one. But some scammers will try to test small amounts, and then they'll have a large purchase on there. So it's important that you're looking at your bank statements to make sure that those transactions are indeed you. Locking down your accounts. So oftentimes, scammers can get a hold of accounts because of old passwords, or they come across passwords that haven't been updated, or you're using the same password across multiple apps. If they get one password, they can open up all kinds of things. Change your passwords often. Don't reuse the same passwords. It's recommended not to write these down or keeping them on you or in a note in your phone. Keep them in a safe place. Some other tips and tricks here with a strong password over here on the left. These are things that have at least 15 characters. They have a mix of uppercase characters and lowercase characters, numbers and symbols. Strong passwords are not your username. They're not your name or any personal identifiable information to you, a friend's name, spouse, family members, grandchildren's birthdays, your birthday, anything that can link to you that's easy to guess. And so many folks do use these types of passwords, and they're very easily hacked. And not a keyboard pattern either. So consecutive letters on a keyboard. I would say that pass phrases might be good. Think of maybe like your favorite movie and your favorite food. You can combine those together to make what I would call like a pass phrase. When put together, it doesn't make any sense to somebody else. It might be a long word, but those are some of the most strong passwords. So scam recovery steps. Some warning signs of ID theft would be debt collectors calling for debts that don't belong to you. These are often sometimes the first signs that somebody's been a victim of identity theft. Unauthorized transactions on your bank accounts. Again, that's why it's really important to take a look at those each month. If you're not receiving expected bank statements in the mail or credit card statements, or you receive unexpected credit cards or account statements that aren't yours that you didn't open, denials of credit for no apparent reason, or the IRS notifies you that one or more tax return was filed in your name. Those are telltale signs of identity theft. If you think you've been a victim of a scam, it's really important. Please contact us right away with UBT. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be scared. Please just let us know so that we can work to support you and help you through this. Notify us. Call annualcreditreport.com or go online. You're able to freeze your accounts with the 3 major credit bureaus if you feel like you've been a victim of identity theft, as well as do some cleanup there. If you had any affected computer equipment cleaned by a local computer repair professional, if you feel as though you might have downloaded a virus, for example, from a suspicious email link, report scams to local law enforcement, such as local police department, our Attorney General's office, the FTC, the Federal Bureau of Investigation at the IC3 website, or through the BBB Scam Tracker. Here's a few more resources as well. The FTC is a good site, as well as the American Bankers Association too has some great tips on fraud and scams. Here's my information. If you have any questions, if you want some further information, if I can connect you to some resources, please don't hesitate to reach out. I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Smarter in September. It was a pleasure to be here today, and we thank you for joining in. Thanks so much.